Hey, welcome everyone. This is Ali Rafter, your guide and mentor, and today I want to give you a basic breakdown of what personal credit is. So today's course, I'm going to go deep into basically giving you some strategies and lessons in terms of what personal credit is. And of course, a lot of you most probably already know what this is, but this is really for those who are not sure of what it stands for and how you can leverage it and why you need it in your life to get ahead financially. So let's go over this course. It's a very basic breakdown, so just bear with me as I go through this material with you, and I hope that you get some value out of this. So let's go over what this session is about. The first thing you want to know is you want to understand what personal credit is, the breakdown of what personal credit means. We also go over what credit reporting standards are, so that this way you can understand the two different sides that are collaborating with each other. We also discuss why you need personal credit in your life to get ahead financially. We also discuss how a credit file can be considered weak, right? So a lot of people say, well, I have good credit, but in reality, based on certain circumstances, that can be actually considered weak. We also discuss how a credit file can be considered average. And we also look at what a strong credit file can look like. And by the time we're done, I will be giving you some bonus tips and tricks that you can use immediately to benefit when it comes to establishing personal credit standards. What is personal credit, right? What is personal credit? So, a personal credit, and the best defined meaning I figured this would be helpful to make you understand is it's a collection of financial facts gathered about an individual into a report that is made available to lenders in order to verify the risks of that particular borrower. Okay, so once again, it is a collection of financial facts gathered about an individual into a report, or let's say three reports when it comes to the three credit bureaus, which is made available to lenders and creditors in order to verify the risk of that particular borrower. So it's already derived from credibility. That's what credit means, credibility, but more in a reference that is coming to the borrowing tense, right? So if you're looking to borrow, people will look at credit. And it's also a tool for individuals to use so that they can qualify for funding, right? It's not just a question of looking at the risks and profiles. It's also something that people look at and say, well, based on your credit, whether good or bad, here's how much we can extend to, and here are the reasons why. And it's also a measure of security. So a lot of employers, especially those who are looking at, getting jobs in investment banks, insurance companies, and financial institutions who lend money regularly, will look at your credit. And if there are certain derogatory items in your report, then the possibility of you getting that job is also very low. It doesn't matter how good you are in your interview. Credit is something that reflects on historical facts about an individual. And of course, it is our duty to make sure that our credit reports are accurate. It's also used for landlords, right? Like if you're a tenant, you're trying to apply for staying in certain places and properties that require some extensive due diligence, especially in the higher end neighborhoods. Credit is something that most landlords will look at. And even the basic neighborhood credit check. For example, if you're trying to get average rent of like $800 or $700, and it's not on the higher end scale, more and more landlords are utilizing credit as a measure to verify whether or not it's something that they are willing to let somebody come in and stay at their properties. So there are some standards when it comes to credit reporting. Okay, there are some standards when it comes to credit reporting. Now there are three major credit bureaus that most people will look at that report financial information. And these lenders, when they do that, sometimes they look at one report, sometimes two, sometimes all three. So you always really want to look at when it comes to analyzing your credit reports, you have to think on all three scales. And these credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Once again, they are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. So there are two sides to credit reporting, right? There are two sides to credit reporting. They are one, they are either a furnisher, which is the person putting the information on your report. And of course, there's the reporting entity, which are the credit bureaus who provide data and information to lenders to qualify a borrower. So in this case, when you're looking at, let's say, Toyota car, and you go and apply, and you say, I want to apply for Toyota. The company Toyota has their own financial division. They will basically inquire about your credit. And if you get approved, what happens now is they will report this car loan to one of the credit bureaus, or let's say all three of the credit bureaus. And then these credit bureaus' duty is to report that data accurately to, let's say, if you're going to apply it down the road to, let's say, Lexus, you upgrade, right? So they're going to look at that and say, okay, well, they were good with Toyota. Now I can give them a credit with Lexus and provide them financing. So it's really, there are two sides. So that's a very important component of credit reporting. So an individual will have to look at this and say, well, look, I can look at my credit report and I can have access to this information like any other lenders would, and I'm available, or it's available for me to get it once a year for free, right? So you can get it for free, or let's say if you get denied for credit, you can actually call the credit reporting agencies and request a copy of the credit bureau, but just letting them know that you were denied. That's very important. So let's go over why you need personal credit. So of course, when it comes to the standards in society, it's a norm now, right? Almost everyone nowadays, from employers, insurance companies, to even the place where you'll be one day staying or renting, will require personal credit verification. It is also the most powerful financial tool for somebody who wants to leverage and build substantial wealth long term. This goes without saying that hopefully you're making informed and educated financial decisions and you're doing it the right way. It also helps you get access to different financial instruments such as credit cards, loans, and lines of credit at very good rates. And this means that you need a higher score. So the higher your FICO score, the lower you'll pay in terms of interest rate. This is almost always true. So let's look at what a weak credit file would look like typically, right? So you probably have lots of inquiries on those files, meaning that you went out and you tried to borrow to different creditors. So that means you look very desperate, right? Like there's a lot of inquiries in your file. You probably have very low credit history, not much creditors on your report, and you have low credit activity, meaning like maybe one or two accounts and really small balances and really small credit limits. You probably have a few late payments, so you could probably looking at your report and it shows two creditors that you're not reliable, right? So if you have a few late payments, it doesn't look good. And of course, the possibility of having collection items, if they're reporting, what it shows to creditors and lenders is that you can't be trusted with credit. So most probably you'll get denied. And of course, if you have a lot of credit accounts and you have huge balances, it doesn't matter if you have good history, but if you have huge balances, it shows that you're just getting by and you're not making progress financially. So creditors may not extend credit to you or give you money in that case. So what does an average file look like, right? So an average file doesn't have much history, but has a decent credit score, typically around 650 score or more. The balances on the accounts are typically 50 to 70%. They're not completely maxed out, but it's still not that great. They have a few inquiries. Doesn't look too desperate, not excessive, but at least let's say 5 or 10. They have a few late payments in there, okay? And of course, probably have some decent credit limits, like 3 to 4 accounts at 5,000 to 7,000. Of course, they don't have any charge-offs, no collection accounts, and probably no public records either. So that's what a decent average credit file looks like. Now, of course, having talked about that, let's go over what a strong credit file look like. Okay, a strong credit file probably has less than 3 inquiries in the last 6 months. In most cases, 720 plus FICO score, has very low balances, typically 30% or less. And of course, some accounts exceed $10,000 in credit. Okay, some accounts exceed $10,000 in credit. They also have good and long credit history. Most probably, some of these accounts could be 5+ years. General average should be at least 7+ years. They don't have any late payments. Of course, that goes without saying. No collection accounts and ultimately no public records. This is a strong credit file, right? So to give you an example, if I have a file like this, based on what you see right here, if I were to give you, look, if you're looking for the maximum funding you can get, you bring me a file or yourself and your credit score is like this, exactly on the criteria as follows, you can probably walk away with $250,000+. Easy, with good rates. I'm talking really good rates, probably promotional rates of 0% on some of the cards and loans. So this is what a strong credit file looks like. Here are some tips and tricks I'd like to share with you that a lot of people out there who are sharing credit education are not going to tell you. But this is something I want to give you a bonus so that at least you have this when it comes to building or establishing a credit as you're going about doing so. First thing you want to do is you want to keep your credit accounts active, right? Like you probably want to spend at least $20 or something across the board. It doesn't matter which creditor you're with, and keep those accounts active, because what it does, it allows you every 6 months, if you do so, to go ask those creditors if you're eligible for an increase in the limit, and they can do it without actually pulling your credit file. And this is something that you can actually do to increase your credit worthiness, to increase your score, to reduce your debt to credit ratio, and of course, to keep active with the financial partners you have, which are your creditors. And of course, another cool trick is, and most probably you will know this, but every 12 months with the same creditors, what you can do is you can ask them, hey, do you have any other credit products that I can use? The reason why, it's because I'm trying to establish credit, and it's something that those creditors are typically going to say, yeah, we have another card or we have another line you can probably access. But what we'll do is we'll probably cut 5% here and then give you 10% over there, or we can actually give it to you without going through an inquiry because you've been a good customer with us, et cetera, et cetera, right? So that's a very good, powerful tool because now it shows diversity with the creditor, and it shows diversity when another when another lender is trying to extend credit to you. It's something that you want to have, okay? And of course, please, 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 please do this. Check your credit reports regularly. It's worth to mention that you probably want to get a credit monitoring plan. It's extremely effective. Of course, this can be done after you fix your credit if your credit's not good, or if you're trying to establish credit. Then, as you're going and building new credit, keep this tool, which is a credit monitoring plan, by your side as you're building it, so you can see that if they're reporting accurately, and you can always contact the creditors if they're not, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So that's it. That's the basic course. I thank you for attending. I thank you for looking at this video, and I hope that was insightful. Thanks for listening. So, After your guide and mentor, please don't forget to watch Finance Talk every Saturday around 1 p.m. Eastern, and if you're on the West Coast, 10 a.m. Pacific. Thank you for listening.